Hi, my name is Marlisa D. Gamblin, and I'm a policy advisor here at Bread for the World. What gave me the idea to design the simulation was actually a conference I went to. I figured I could use the same approach to help people understand how our country has actually created the racial wealth, hunger, and income gaps that we see today. I really get inspired every time I do the simulation because it has a way of igniting something in people. At Bread, we truly believe that ending hunger and poverty in the U.S. is possible. But it first requires understanding how racial inequality has actually widened hunger levels for communities of color.
Voting is key to ending hunger. As early as 1890, Blacks faced organized campaigns to prevent them from voting, including bias, literacy tests, poll taxes, and lynching. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act passed, making efforts to prevent voting illegal. Today, people returning from jail or prison who are disproportionately Black are denied the right to vote in many states. In addition, as recently as 2017, states have proposed voter ID laws, which would require voters to have government-issued identification. It is more difficult for African Americans to obtain these. 1 in 4 face barriers compared to 1 in 10 whites. Barriers include, for example, having to pay up to $150 for an acceptable copy of a birth certificate and Social Security card, travel costs, and time taken from work.
Black participants, add 1 lost opportunity card for 1 being prevented from voting in the early 1900s, when the votes of Black people might have prevented some of the harmful laws mentioned in the simulation from being enacted. And 2, still facing voting restrictions that disproportionately impact Black communities and weaken efforts to improve policies that end hunger and poverty. Black participants, you should have 14 lost opportunity cards, 1 land card. Only 4 participants should have a money card. Everyone else should have 0 money cards. White participants, you should have 13 money cards, 1 lost opportunity card, and 7 land cards. What we've learned today with the racial wealth gap is why reparatory justice is necessary. The racial wealth gap, as I mentioned before, did not start after enslavement. The racial wealth gap actually started with colonization, right? With European settlers coming to the United States, taking land from indigenous folks, right? Taking land from indigenous folks, keeping it as their own, using that land for benefit, for economic benefit. We are called to atone. Even though folks didn't own slaves, folks didn't enact the policies, you still benefit from it. As a result of you benefiting from it, I don't, as a Black person. I don't know if anybody noticed during the simulation, but every time a white person added a money card, Black people added a lost opportunity card. In order for you to win, I have to lose. That is how we have to approach this conversation, because at this point, it's not about if you own slaves or if you didn't own slaves. If your family owned enslaved persons, you benefit. You benefit in some way. If they were able to pass down land to you, if they were able to pass down money to you, whether it was $2, you are still able to benefit in a way that I am not. And from the racist policies, again, during the simulation, we saw how when Black people were at a loss, white people were able to gain. We have to talk about that. These are conversations that we have to have when we're in our communities, and quite honestly, calling truth to power. Because when it comes to this conversation, people have created their own narrative rather than the actual narrative. However, we cannot accept their narrative. We have to acknowledge the narrative that is actually there and the narrative that people are living.